There's a story told of the fanatical Red Sox fan. You know, all his life he dreams, eats, sleeps baseball. Finally, this righteous man says to him, is there nothing more important than baseball? Suppose this boat we're in right now, the rowboat, we're sinking, and you could save only one. Your father's on the boat and Ted Williams. Whom would you save? The man looks at him and says, are you crazy? My father can't even bat 200.
In the morning solitude of the clubhouse, long before game time, Ted selects his favorite model, a 35-inch bat weighing 34 ounces, with precision balance, buggy whip snap, and a trout rod feel. The center of percussion in a bat is in the joy zone, a 7-inch area in the symmetric barrel. To solidify the barrel, the bat is boned. A well-boned bat will not check or break in hot weather. The joy zone becomes iron hard and rings with a musical click when it meets the ball. To prevent the bat from escaping from his hands, Ted grooves the handle with a bottle cap. This produces hand security, for at contact, his bat has generated rocket speed.
In late July 1941, with DiMaggio's streak over, the spotlight shifted to the cocky young outfielder for the Boston Red Sox. Williams' obsession with hitting was admired, but he was not loved the way the exuberant Ruth had been, the way the shy DiMaggio was. He feuded with the press, lined baseballs at fans who jeered him, and once was fined $5,000 for spitting at them.
Now I look back and I think, well, I didn't handle it very well. I don't think the Red Sox handled it very well. And certainly the press made it pretty tough for me. And so I think all of that is kind of silly as you look back, but it happened and it had quite an effect on me. And sometimes I wonder if it didn't have a good effect, because I was mad at the world and mad at everybody. And I'd go to the plate more determined than ever.
After hearing boos from the crowd in his rookie year, he vowed never again to tip his cap after hitting a home run, no matter how loud the cheers. Ted Williams owed them nothing but hits.
In 41, Williams was tall, thin, gawky. He had nicknames, the Splendid Splinter, toothpicked head, things like that. He was an awkward-looking ball player. He couldn't field. I mean, he could catch a ball, but he was an awkward fielder. Had a good arm from the outfield because he used to pitch, but he was not a good fielder. He was distracted in the outfield. He'd stand in the outfield swinging an imaginary bat instead of looking at home plate. Sometimes in 41 and 1940 particularly, he sometimes wouldn't run out ground balls. He wouldn't run out pop flies, and the crowd would boo him, and the crowd would have to yell at him. In 1941, Williams was considered a flake. They didn't use the term then, but that's what he was. And he was considered a very fine hitter, but not yet a great ball player. And 41 was the making of Ted Williams, the hitting streak, the home run in the All-Star game.
Russell pitches, Williams swings, there's a high drive, going deep, deep. It is a home run against the tip top of the right field stand. A tremendous home run that brought in 3 runs and turned what looked to be a National League win into an American League 7-5 win. 2 men were on, 2 men were out, and what a watch. Williams just let go and hit one of the biggest home runs that's ever been hit at this park. And how things changed.
Although he had broken his ankle in spring training, he had a 23-game hitting streak of his own that year, and he was batting 70 points higher than DiMaggio, well over 400, something no other ball player had done since 1930. For the next 2 months, Williams dominated the league.
If I pitch, can you catch? Will you hold the ball? When you step to the plate, will you swing and fall? If you play, you gotta know how it's done. Can you hold a hard ball? Get the back, baby, baby. Get the back, baby, baby. Get the back, baby, baby.
as the season progressed, my average was hanging up at 410, 12, 15, and that started to get a little notoriety. And of course, a lot of guys get into these streaks, and nobody takes notice till maybe the last 3 weeks. Now, you know, this guy's got a chance. And so that's when I started to feel a little bit of pressure on this thing.
Toward the end of the season, Williams' average began to drop.
It was so dramatic. His average had been dipping slowly, 410, 48, 46. They left Boston for the last week of the season, went to Washington. Ted had a bad doubleheader, and his average dropped to 401. They had 3 games left in Philadelphia, one on a Saturday and a doubleheader on Sunday. And the Boston papers started talking about whether they should sit Williams down, let him sit out, hold his 401 average. And Joe Cronin, the Boston manager, said to Williams, "Why don't you sit down? Why don't you keep this?" And Williams, to his tremendous credit, said, no, it's not a record unless you play all the way. So he insisted in playing. And Saturday, I think he went 1 for 4, and his average dropped to 3.995, 3.9955, just under 400. It would round off to 400, the way baseball does things, but it wouldn't have been. People all through the years would have said, well, he hit 3.9955, so he really had no choice but to play the last game.
And I walked all over Philadelphia with Johnny Orlando that night, talking about what I had to do, worried about whether or not I could do it. Hopefully I was going to be able to do it, and talking over the pitchers I was going to have to face the next day. Probably so tired going into the park that I was relaxed.
Again, Joe Cronin suggested that he sit out the games rather than risk damaging that record.
Not ever. Never a thought. And I was even surprised when Cronin that very day came up to me the last day, and he said, "You know, you don't have to play today." And I said, "Hell, I'm going to play." You know, just like, what's this? What's going on here?
If I couldn't hit 400 all the way, he said later, I didn't deserve it.
I got ready to hit, and Hayes, just as he's kneeling down to give the signs and I'm up there to hit, he said, "Mr. Mack told us to pitch to you today." Well, they didn't pitch very much to me because, you know, I hit him so well. He said, "Mr. Mack says we're going to pitch to you today, we're not going to give you any." So just before the pitcher was ready to throw the first pitch, Bill McGowan, he, like all umpires, they turned their rear end towards center field and rushed off the plate. And he said, "In order to hit 400, you got to be loose." And I'll never forget that.
And so here was the thing. Could he get his average up? You got a base hit the first time up. You hit a home run the second time up. You got a base hit the third time up. He got 6 hits and 8 at-bats in the doubleheader. After the third hit, he had it locked up. He wasn't going to go below 400 no matter what happened. And Cronin, who'd been around the major leagues for 20 years or so, said, I came as close to crying on a ball field as I ever did when that kid got that third hit. He said, after all he went through.
Ted Williams had raised his batting average to 406. No one has hit 400 since.